what led up to this crime that you haven't discussed yet, but what led up to this moment that changed your life?
Um, well, I mean, I always remember like it was yesterday, right? Like it was December 14, 2007. It was a Friday night. That day I knew we had a gang meeting. So it's like I did my chores, right? Did what I had to do. And then like I told my mom I'm out. I gotta go to the hood. And I lived in the hood, right? Like I only lived a block away from where the meeting was gonna take place. And you imagine it's a Friday night, um, in South Central Los Angeles, and the tension is there between us and black rival gangs. And not just black rival gangs, but also rival Mexican gangs.
Right.
Because we go at it with everybody. And, we're there to have a gang meeting, a small one, and we're there to also have, which is my co-defendant, commit a crime. So it's like kind of his you know acceptance into to the clique. And you know that day this whole crime was like kind of directed towards him, so that
For him to commit it.
for him to commit it,
Okay.
and for him to gain his bones, I guess you can say, right?
Okay.
um I mentioned tension, I mentioned there was a lot of rivalry, right? And I mean, we did what, I mean, I guess I would consider like every other gang member does. You're plotting a homicide, or you're plotting a drive-by shooting, and to go shoot another race, or the same race, right? Whoever gets in the way, like you want to be recognized. Like those are the motions that you're going through. And in that night, I remember this young gentleman, that was my co-defendant. Like he showed up, and they were pressing him of how he was supposed to go commit this crime, right? And like my name came up in the mix of saying, you're gonna go with him. And me being the pressure case that I am, right, at that time, um, and also wanting to be acknowledged, I said, let's go. Let's go and commit this crime.
Is this your first time you was gonna do something like this?
No, there was numerous times that I had did stuff, right? But this was gonna be solely just with me and him. This individual, I've never really met him. So we didn't have no history like I did with my other boys,
Right.
right? This was a young dude. He was no older than like 15, 16 years old, right? So um we ended up requesting a G ride. Um, there was this paisano that was able to get us a G ride, which is a stolen vehicle. We gave him, paid him in drugs. I still remember it was an old Toyota Camry, and the kind that you turn on with a screwdriver, or a flathead, I mean.
Right.
And we proceeded to go, and we got the car, and we went from the west side of LA to the east side of LA, which is South Central, the east side of South Central. And in that event, like, we're looking for rival gang members,
Anybody.
anybody, specifically, you know, um, a certain area, you know, and we didn't find anybody, right? And what I did, because I was already like ingrained in what I wanted to do and what I needed to do, I took control of the situation in a negative manner. And I told this youngster, you're going to drive. You're not going to go commit the crime. Like, I'm going to commit the crime. You're going to drive, right?
Did he argue with you?
Nah, he didn't argue. I mean, he's 15 years old. He's probably shit. He's probably scared shit of his life. Just like I am. I'm not no fucking hardcore individual. Like, I just know that I'm impulsive, and I have all this energy and all this negativity.
I just asked you that because you had told me that the original mission was for him to do it.
Yeah, and it was, but like seeing the fear in him, like goes back to like the responsibility, right? Like me being in there and like, you know what? Like I felt that empathy for him. Like just relax, bro. Just drive, you know?
And he's 15.
And he's like 15, 16 years old.
Okay. He
And
not you. There's no guarantee he's even a good driver at this point.
exactly. But he said he could drive.
Okay.
Right? So I'm like, you're driving, I'm busting. And you know, we definitely couldn't find anybody that night. And we're on this stolen vehicle on the east side of South Central Los Angeles with very low gas. Right? So it's like, you know what? Let's turn around, let's go back to the hood. Let's go back to where we were at. Right? It's a failed mission. And through that event, we're like at an intersection waiting to turn left, and a patrol car passes us, and it's LAPD. And as soon as they pass us, like side by side, coming in the opposite direction, the officer puts his full bright light, all on us. And come on, you see two young bald Mexicans in this car.
Did you all make eye contact with?
Of course, we did. You know, like
hey, you know what I do, right?
Yeah.
And you know what cops call that? Cops call that the I want to have a conversation with you look.
Yeah.
And so you guys made the mistake of making eye contact with them.
So we whether we made eye contact or not at that point, like you imagine that's happened years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, they so called it, they busted a bitch, you know, they turned around, got behind us. My crime, you could tell he had fear. I had fear, right? I was like, I'm not going to prison. Right?
But what made you think you were going to prison? You hadn't done anything.
Well, I mean, previous crimes or just the paranoia. And I mean, you hear all these things like whether I was gonna go to prison or not for something that I'd done in the past.
Did you get caught for something in the past?
No. So you get what I'm saying? Like, and then you have this strap, you have this gun that God knows what has been done with it.
Well,
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of contributing factors into this. And then when you're thinking like, not too many brown black brothers make it in the hood when you're like, you know, being pulled over by cops.
Were you high at the time?
I was high as a kite.
Okay, I had to ask the question.
Yeah, I was high as a kite. I was high as a kite.
You got all the ingredients for what you're about to tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like these officers, they didn't pull us over just yet. Like I knew what they were doing. They were running the license plate.
Mm-hmm.
Bam, the car comes out stolen. So they start pulling us over in this certain location as we're going back home. And I told my crime partner, like, don't pull over, you know? And I'm starting to think, like, what do I do? How do I get away? Right? And quickly in my immature mind, I was like, well, we're going to go to the park where we grew up. They're fixing the park. I'm going to go ahead and toss the gun and we run. Right? Of course, a plan never goes according to plan. And, you know, in that event, like, I remember we got to a certain location in a certain street, which is actually on Normandy, where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And I came out the window and I started to fire my gun at them.
So wait, you went from we're trying to go to this park so I can ditch the guns.
Yes.
We can jump out and run.
Yes.
To I'm gonna start shooting.
I'm gonna start shooting. And I just think like it goes back to like, and I'm not making excuses, but it's just like the development of how like I was not only homicidal, but I was suicidal.
Homicidal, suicidal, and high off your ass.
Exactly. So you put all those recipes, like I didn't have no worth. I feel like I didn't have no worth. I was ready to gunslinging with just any ordinary gang member. Why not with an officer?